Hello everyone, nice to see you all. So in this video, I want to go over crow pose and I want to give you some tips to maybe make your crow fly. So what you'll need if you have them is 2 blocks or anything like 2 blocks. The blocks will be helpful for this experience of your crow pose. Now before you get started in your crow exercise, make sure that your wrists are warmed up. So you've done a little bit of wrist warm up already, hopefully, circling them out. Maybe you've done a few sun salutations already. So you're not just doing this exercise cold, okay? Make sure you're warm. Lots of wrist stretches. I have some videos of wrist stretches in some of my flows, so feel free to go through those and dig them out. Otherwise, just do basic forearm and wrist stretches. Just get your hands ready. Now, if you watched my video on chaturanga, which I recommend you do before doing crow, so crow needs to happen once you're very good at chaturanga, because chaturanga, the 4-limb staff, is a prerequisite for arm balances, like crow. But crow pose is a really great arm balance to start with. So once you understand that energy hugs into the center line, like we did with chaturanga, energy draws in, the core draws in, the rib cage draws in, the shoulders slide down. So this drawing in of energy, that helps the crow to fly. So let's have a little bit of a go of what's going to happen. Make sure first you've also warmed up a squat position. Whether or not your heels are down or you're up on your toes, it doesn't matter. So find a squat if you haven't already. And what we'll do, we'll get 1 block, place it long ways on the floor, so long ways. The other block you're going to put on the tall way at the end of your mat, right at the end. And I'm on the rocks here, so it's a little bit unsteady, but we'll see how we go. Now, what I want you to do in a squat position, so now the heels are lifted, I want you to come on top of your block with your feet and squat down with your knees wide. So now you've got your knees wide, you're squatting on the block. Then I want you to place your hands down about shoulder distance apart. Check that your index finger is facing forwards. You're gripping the mat with the fingertips. It's important to really find a strong foundation of your palms. Now wrap the triceps back or think the inner elbow slightly forwards. We also, in crow, we don't want the arms to bend out really super wide. They hug in. The shoulders, they move back towards your hips. So you feel that the sternum and the crown could extend away from your tailbone. Now you're looking at the block that's just at the end of the mat somewhere. I'll put mine about there. It doesn't want to be too close to you. If the block is too close to you and you go to put your forehead down, your legs will never, ever, ever lift. So we need to have the block further away because we want the energy to start moving forwards towards the block so we can eventually lift the feet. So you place your hands in the floor. Let's lift the heels and bring your knees as high as you can to your upper arms. And they can start on the outsides of your arms. Now lift your hips a bit higher. Shift forwards. So now notice where my elbows are in relation to my wrists. They're just above my wrists. Now my forehead is just hovering above the block. I'm hugging in. Switch on the core, move the shoulders back. Pick 1 foot up. Maybe lower that foot back down. Lift your other foot up. You could potentially rest your forehead on the block if you need to. One day, pull both feet up instead of pushing both feet up. Lower your feet back on the block. You're back in the squat. So in the beginning, you will just do 1 leg at a time. 1 foot first, then the other foot. Keep hugging the arms in. Keep breathing calmly in and out of the nose, finding that grip with the fingertips and the palms pressing to help stabilize you. Remember, the core is also going to help stabilize you. Let's try one more time. Press the palms down, wrap the triceps back, lift the heels, bring the knees to the upper arms, lift the hips. Get the elbows above your wrists. Now, forehead just off the block, shoulders back, and breathe. Lift 1 foot. Lift, just pull it off the floor or the block. Now maybe pull the other foot up. You can use your forehead on the block if you need to. That's why it's there. Or hover it just off the block. Once you've done that, lower your feet back onto the block. Now step off the block. That's that exercise. Circle your wrists out. So for this round, if you've done my chaturanga video, you understood how to set the blocks up on this shoulder distance high setting. The same kind of principle. You're going to take your hands just behind the blocks, just behind them. Maybe there's like an inch away. Index finger facing forwards, knuckles gripping and pressing into the earth. Wrap the triceps back. Now we're on the floor with the heels lifted in the squat. Bring your knees to your upper arms. Lift your hips a little higher. Now move the shoulders back, the sternum forwards. Look slightly forwards. Start to bring the weight forwards. Try not to push off the floor. Pull one foot off the floor. Start to lower the chin between the blocks. Pull the other foot off the floor. Maybe take the shoulders onto the blocks. Extend the crown. Bring the big toes to touch. Then push the hands into the floor. Lift the shoulders off the blocks. Lower the feet back down. So there's crow pose with the blocks under the shoulders. I'll show you one more time. Circle your wrists out if you need to. Your blocks are set up shoulder distance apart on the high setting. Take your fingertips just behind the blocks. Now you're on your tiptoes. The heels are lifted. Bring your knees to your upper arms. They can be the outside of the arms to start, somewhere towards the shoulder. Eventually they do go onto the back of the arms. That'll come later. Now start to bring the weight up and forwards. Knees to outer upper arms or upper arms. Shoulders back, sternum forwards, core engaged. Pull one foot. Start to take the chin between the blocks. Pull the other foot. Start to grip the mat with the fingertips. Lower your shoulders onto the blocks. Just think of looking ever so slightly forwards. Bring the big toes to touch. Hug in. Then push the fingertips down into the floor. Lift off the blocks. Lower the feet. Now, with that exercise, you're slightly lower in the shoulders than you want to be without the blocks, okay? So this is really just like training wheels. If you're worried about face planting, having the block under the forehead like we did in the first exercise, or the block under the shoulders is a good one to train with, okay? Ultimately, when you're comfortable with the gripping of the fingertips in the floor and the hugging in of the energy, you don't need the training wheel blocks at the front anymore. So you could now one block or two blocks stacked on top of each other, depending on how daring you're feeling. You'll come to bring your toes on top of the blocks and be in your squat position. Now my knees are up quite high already. I'm going to place my hands down. I'm going to grip the floor like I did before, wrap the triceps back. Now I start to lift the heels, bring the weight forwards, get the elbows above the wrists, shoulders back, sternum forwards. Now don't push off the blocks, pull one foot first, hug in. Pull the other foot. Breathe. Now the blocks are there if you want to touch them. You can touch them if you need to. Keep gripping the floor with the fingertips. Keep the core engaged. Try to lift away from the floor. Lower your feet back onto the blocks. Then step off the blocks. Okay, maybe just move one block out of the way. If you were daredevil, crow flyer, maybe one block, both feet on the blocks. Squat down again. Last time, everyone. Place the hands into the floor. Wrap the triceps back, shoulders back, sternum forwards, gaze slightly forwards. Start to lift one foot. Start to lift the other foot. Fly. Draw the core up. Press the floor away from you. Hug the energy into the center line. Lower your feet back on the blocks. Step off the block. And then move the block to the side. Lower your heels and just come to sit. Circle your wrists out. So there's some exercises you can do with some blocks in order to get your crow pose. If you don't have blocks, and like I said, you could use a book or a carton of soy milk or something. Some people I know put cushions and stuff at the end because they're worried about the face hitting the floor. Feel free to do that, but the block will definitely do the job, so invest in them if you can. There is how to do crow pose well, everyone, with some fun tips with the blocks. Any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Thanks so much for watching. Namaste.